It has been a busy couple of hours today. Of course, the OHL trade window for the month of June is now open, and two teams very excited for their opportunity to change players. Well, two teams making some changes when it comes to coaching staff. So we'll get to all that, but let's start off with the big trade because now that the Memorial Cup is over, all 20 OHL teams focused on the 2024-25 OHL season. And boy, oh boy, a big move between the Sudbury Wolves and the Flint Firebirds to kick things off. The Wolves, they have traded Nolan Collins, Evan Conyon, Matthew Mania, and the rights to Joshua Colosimo to the Firebirds. And in return, Gavin Ewells, Dax Klinkhammer, and 9 draft picks go to Sudbury. Out of those 9 draft picks, 2 of them are second-round picks in 2027, and 2 are third-round picks in 2027. And one of those third-round picks are actually from the Barrie Colts. And it seems as though those Barrie Colt picks move around quite a bit, but that's how the OHL works. If you actually follow with all the draft picks, they move quite a bit, and there is a rule as to how far you can trade the draft picks in the future. Because at one point, teams were trading away draft picks that were 10 years in the future, but you'll see that quite often where there's a lot of draft picks moving, and it's a bit of a mystery of where those draft picks will actually fall. So 9 draft picks in total going to the Sudbury Wolves. And, last season, it was a little disappointing for the Sudbury Wolves. They were the favorite to win the Eastern Conference in 23-24, but be it coaching, systems, goaltending, it just didn't come together. It didn't work out for Sudbury. They had the best offense in the Eastern Conference, but they managed to finish 5th place in the Eastern Conference standings. You'll remember they played Mississauga in the first round of the playoffs, got by them, and then got swept by the North Bay Battalion in the second round. So the Sudbury Wolves looking to shake things up. There's plenty of players who are graduating, who were on the team last season, so it's going to be a new-look team anyway, and they're just continuing that with this big trade as the Firebirds getting some big pieces. Starting off, Evan Conyon. Last year, 23 goals, 25 assists, 48 points. That was in 55 games. And you'll remember that Evan Conyon, he missed 6 games due to a suspension connected to the bounty scandal between the Sudbury Wolves and the Barrie Colts. Conyon also from the state of Pennsylvania, so he's in the United States, which means he's closer to family, which I'm sure he's happy about. Also in the playoffs, Conyon contributed pretty well. 4 goals, 4 assists, good for 8 points in 9 games. And that'll translate well, I'm sure, for the Flint Firebirds next season. And then you have Nolan Collins. He is a big defenseman, 6'4", 205 pounds, a 6th round pick of the Pittsburgh Penguins. He is an overage candidate for this upcoming season. So that's another interesting note. That just now adds to the options when it comes to overagers with the Flint Firebirds. And you have to figure Collins, a big body defenseman in that Western Conference. We saw how the London Knights like to play a physical game. So the Flint Firebirds are going to want to match that. So they bring in Collins. And then Matthew Mania, another solid defenseman. He stands 6'1", 190 pounds, drafted in the 5th round by the LA Kings. He's a 2005 born. So the Flint Firebirds could get 2 seasons out of him. So we'll wait and see what happens there with Matthew Mania. But for Colosimo, he played Tier 2, the OJHL last season. He ended the year with the Brantford 99ers. Registered 5 goals, 10 assists, 15 points in 29 games. So not too bad for the centerman. He is a pretty big centerman, so if the Firebirds can get him to commit to joining them, he stands 6'2", 174 pounds. That would be a nice addition, I'm sure, for them to add up the middle. Because for the Flint Firebirds, I think this is a team that could make some noise in the West Division. Obviously, the Saginaw Spirit, they're going to take a step back after hosting the Memorial Cup. The Sioux Greyhounds, they should still be competitive. They're losing some players due to graduation as well. So I feel as though the West Division, a little up in the air. And the Flint Firebirds, I think they have a shot of winning the division, especially if they're going to be this bold in making a trade like this during the June trade window. The Flint Firebirds, if you remember, they had a strong finish to the regular season. They still finished 8th, but they nearly caught both the Guelph Storm and the Owen Sound Attack. Those were 2 teams in the Western Conference standings who were tumbling and almost fell to that 8th spot and would have had to have played London. Unfortunately, it was the Firebirds who had to play the Knights in that opening round and ended up getting swept. So Flint, I think they're on the right track. I do like this trade, but they are giving up a couple of younger players. Dax Klinkhammer, I love the name. It's going to be fun to call that next season in the battle of between Barrie and Sudbury. So Klinkhammer, an up-and-coming player, he's from Ajax. He had a goal and 4 assists last season, so good for 5 points in 55 games. Expect him to have more and have an output with more ice time with the Sudbury Wolves. And then Gavin Yules, he was actually traded to the Flint Firebirds from Ottawa ahead of the OHL trade deadline, and he actually picked up his game when he joined the Flint Firebirds. He only appeared in 29 games with Flint, 2 goals and 11 assists, good for 13 points. And you compare that to the start of the season with Ottawa, Yules only had 8 assists in 36 games. So he really flourished a bit there playing with the Flint Firebirds. He was actually getting a little more ice time and giving more opportunities with Flint. The Ottawa 67's defense was a little older and a little more experienced, but Yules enjoying his time there, and we'll see how that translates now going to the Nickel City, joining the Sudbury Wolves. But just judging by this trade, I don't think the Wolves are done. It sounds like we could see a couple more moves between now and the start of the regular season. Maybe they make another trade during the June window. Time will tell. And if you're not familiar with the OHL trade window, for the month of July and the first part of August, there are no trades. And then once training camp starts, then we'll see some more movement. But this Sudbury Wolves team, I think that this is a sign that maybe they're considering a rebuild or a retool. Obviously, a lot of players are graduating. Do they see Quentin Musty? Does he come back? And if he does come back, does he become a trade chip? Because you know that there's going to be teams that are eager to add the talents of Quentin Musty and his offensive capabilities. And if the Sudbury Wolves do move on from him, they will get quite a few solid assets. But time will tell. Right now, it looks like maybe a bit of a rebuild. Or do they flip these picks? It is the Sudbury Wolves. You just never know. But still, this is the Sudbury Wolves still looking to hire a head coach. So that's another factor. So they make this big trade. We still don't know who's going to be behind the bench for the Sudbury Wolves. What direction is this team actually heading? Personally, I think they're going to head towards a rebuild, but it's only June. We still have a lot of time. But I really do like what the Flint Firebirds did with this move. I think this is a good step for them as they look to be more competitive in that West Division. And then the Owen Sound Attack. They held a press conference this afternoon. They invited the community over to talk to their brand new head coach as they introduced Scott Wray as their new bench boss. Wray comes over from the North Bay Battalion, where he spent the last 6 seasons as an assistant coach. And he was the one that was more so focused on specialty teams. And for the North Bay Battalion, these last 3 seasons, they've done very well. 3 straight Eastern Conference Finals appearances. So Wray maybe able to bring some of that experience to the Owen Sound Attack, who had a disappointing season as well last year. They may have the best goaltender in Carter George, but the offense, Colby Barlow did everything that he could, but it was just the team wasn't consistent. And then going into next year, you almost feel like maybe the Attack are going to take another step back. But Scott Wray, he's going to look to right the ship. And before he joined the North Bay Battalion, he was actually the head coach of the Powassan Voodoos. And there he won the NOJHL championship. That was in 2017. So he has championship experience at the Tier 2 level. He's helped guide the North Bay Battalion to 3 straight Eastern Conference Finals. His resume does look good. Dale DeGray, the general manager, says he wants the Owen Sound Attack to be a team that's harder to play against at the Bayshore. So we'll have to wait and see. I think this is a good hire for the Owen Sound Attack, but then you have to wonder, his son Mason Ray currently plays with the Niagara IceDogs. Does he make the move to Owen Sound? We'll have to wait and see, but I don't want to start any speculation on that front. But congratulations to Scott Wray being named the head coach of the Owen Sound Attack. And also to note, Ray does have a history with Owen Sound. He was drafted by the Platers in 1997, only appeared in 21 games before being traded to the North Bay Centennials. But Scott Wray still has a couple ties there to the Owen Sound organization. So we'll see what happens there on that front. Also to note, the North Bay Battalion hosting a press conference tomorrow. So we should find out as early as tomorrow, I guess, whether or not they're going to have a new assistant coach. And finally, just wanted to talk about the Niagara IceDogs briefly. Danial Paille, he has been named the new assistant coach of Niagara earlier today. Paille, of course, NHL experience, won the Stanley Cup with the Boston Bruins in 2011. He's also a Welland native, so not far from St. Catharines. So I'm sure for Paille, a great experience for him to be an assistant coach at this level. And he's also doing it not far from home. So congratulations to Danial Paille. So that's how I see things from the booth. Things are obviously going to change because that trade window is now open. Let me know in the comments section down below your thoughts on the Sudbury Wolves trade with the Flint Firebirds, or if you're a fan of the Owen Sound Attack, how do you feel about the new head coach that was introduced earlier today? So again, thank you very much for tuning in. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Talk to you again soon.